There is an old joke amongst Jews. If you find 3 Jews arguing, you will get 4 opinions. So, the big question really is, what do you mean when you say a 2-state solution? Because this sentence means different things to different people. People like myself who came to Judaism in their 30s, and so have made an effort to indoctrinate themselves from the Judeo-Christian world that they were brought up in, and to actually learn history. This is one of the reasons why it really offends most of us when those who are bigots and terrorist sympathizers say, I've learned, why don't you educate yourself? And you're sitting there going, you are saying some of the dumbest things I've ever heard. 2-state solution. Guess what it originally was? That was the 2-state solution. So for some of us, when you say, we need a 2-state solution, the first thing that comes to our minds is, you had it. Jordan exists now, and it's got a lot bigger land. In fact, it has more land than it should, because the UK, who went to the United Nations, which has recognized Israel as a legitimate state, so those little memes going, Israel is a fake country. No, it's not. Palestine, at the moment, is. Because there has been no Palestine since British Mandate Palestine. What exists there is refugees on the Gaza Strip. And they are the only people who have been left refugees for generations. Do we need those refugees, since it is very clear that the Arab countries that they originally came from will not take them back, will give them no right of return? They're stuck there. And that's not fair to them. It's not fair to them that they've been brainwashed to think that the reason they're living in squalor is not because of the terrorist organization that's holding them hostage, but because Jews have the audacity to have come back to their homeland. And I hate to break it to you, but that is Jewish homeland. This is just one example. Whether you like it or not, whether you don't like it or not, doesn't matter. All archaeological evidence, proof of who is indigenous to that area, shows up in Hebrew, not in Arabic. And by the way, there is no P in Arabic. So if you are going to name your country something, would you name it something you yourself could not pronounce? This bullshit gets passed around a lot. And you know what that actually shows? It shows that every single time Israel went to the table, there have been 9 times in the last 70 years, and tried to make peace with the refugees, to let them actually have a legitimate state, Israel gave up something. But the refugees said no. They took what Israel gave, but then didn't agree to peace, which is why they do not have a state, they do not have a currency, they do not have proper borders, they do not have anything. And that's not Israel's fault. Actually, that's the rest of the world's fault. Because in less than 75 years, the world has managed to convince itself that Israel, which was known and resented, quite frankly, for being the home of Jews, because, Judea, Jews, that's sort of the way it works. You know what? They came from there, and they are the origin of the other 2 monotheistic faiths. And there's a great deal of resentment for that, because usually when something takes from something else and tries to create something new, what it took from has the decency to die off. And Jews have had the audacity to be around for 4,000 years. Plus. In fact, Islam has more than 600 times the amount of land. Arab has more than 600 times the amount of land that Israel does. And you know how it got to be that Islam was 23 countries strong just in Africa and the Middle East? They colonized. The very thing you accuse Jews of doing when they have gone to where history proves they came from, to their indigenous land. The 2-state solution needs a different name, because the 2-state solution has been fucked over by the refugees for 70 years. You want the refugees to have their own state? I agree. Until the terrorists are gone, nothing will happen. And that's not Israel's fault either, because you don't get to blame Jews for existing. And that's essentially what you do. What you are doing Israel just dealt with a massacre, an invasion of their sovereign soil, kidnappings, over 100 which are still in the possession of the Hamas over 100 days later. And yet you all are doing what people have done to women for a couple hundred years when it comes to they got raped. What did you do to deserve this? No, Israel didn't do anything to deserve it. You are victim blaming. And the bottom line is that those who do that sort of shit are doing it because they just simply cannot bear to face themselves and see that they are terrorist sympathizers and bigots, and choose to stay that way, choose to stay ignorant so they can have that hatred. Frankly, I feel sorry for most of you that your lives are so conflicted that you will hate people you've never met. And for those who want to resent this, I suggest you look at history and find out what happened to all those gorgeous Buddhist statues that used to be in Afghanistan and other places before Islam decided to take over that area. You're not going to find them. There was a big thing in the 90s about how Islam was going around destroying works of art that were thousands of years old because it offended them religiously. That's colonizing too. Think about what the Judeo-Christian